Welcome everyone, and welcome Rawr to the stream. Great to have you. Sorry for the lack of webcam, but we got your beautiful mug up here on the stream. Welcome, very happy to have you. Welcome everyone to the video, the Q&A, and to the stream here live. Thank you for joining. Great to have you all. Rawr, if you want to say a few words and introduce yourself, then let's have at it.
Hello, I'm Rawr. The guy in space, I guess.
The guy in space. There you have it. So here with you live, and here if you're watching the recording. But again, really happy to have you here. So you obviously do warps, and you're the owner of the Starfinder 28. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my ship.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's my ship.
Okay. All right. Cool. So really cool. So how long have you had the spaceship, and like what made you decide that was right for you to invest in?
Well, I mean, I as I started this game, I started out as a sweater and just hanging out because I was bored with my other games. So I was looking for a new game. Started out in the sweating community on Arc back in those days, just 2 years ago. They were very welcoming, and it was flourishing. So I was looking for my next profession in the game, because you can only sweat for so long before, you know,
Right.
you lose the passion for it and you run out of things to watch on Netflix.
Right.
So it was either between a healer and a warper that I was leaning in between. And at the time I didn't get any good offers at a FAP, so I just happened to stumble over somebody who wanted to get rid of their ship. And that's when I went like, yeah, I can do this. I have the patience for it.
Okay. Yeah, because I think, speaking from my personal experience, like, the one thing that kept me away from warping was the commitment that you have to make, right? Because you can't just kind of do your own thing. You have to be constantly available for your client base, and it takes a lot of effort to make your pet back, right, on the investment, because it's like a couple dollars every warp that you make, right? So you've got to do a lot of them. So that's really cool though. So you were sweating before, and so you were free to play for a while, I take it, before you got into the space scene. Okay.
I was for 3 or 4 months. I was completely free to play, and that was just me trying to get a grasp for this game
And like learn it. Yeah.
and also get a pulse on the community itself. Like you can detect a lot of issues with the game through its community.
Right.
Back then, people didn't have a lot of nice things to say about Mind Arc, because you know you gotta blame the big man for all the issues in the world.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you need to change your whole playstyle for a warp ship. It has to be around the warp ship itself. It's not like you can, oh, I want to kill this quest with 100 mob kills or 1,000 mob kills. Like, you will get interrupted and you're gonna have to drop everything. And it's the same thing with healers.
Yeah.
If you're a healer and you want to do a quest that's 100 mob kills or 1,000 or whatever, if you tell the customer like, no, I can't help you right now, I'm busy, they will just get in the habit of contacting somebody else.
Right. So in order to stay competitive, you have to always like cater to the demands of the customer and pretty much always make yourself available, or they'll just go to someone else. So that's got to be difficult to maintain. And I'm sure that also politics play into the space scene as well. So remaining neutral is probably pretty important too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a stance in politics, you exclude one side of that argument from your customer base. Like, people can be very petty in this game, and if you wrong them in some shape or form, they will go somewhere else.
Right. So, if you don't mind, how long have you been playing the game? Like, when did you make your account?
2021.
Okay, so still pretty new, like in comparison to some.
Yeah, but I had the upside of I had a clean slate when I joined. I didn't have that baggage. Like, the longer you stick with this game, the more players you encounter and the more things you could get stuck in. And I'm referring to like politics right now. So I had the benefit of having a clean slate when I joined,
Right.
but that didn't sit right with some of the older people in the game as well. Like, people have tried to cancel me several times already in this 2 years I've been warping.
So when you say cancel, you mean like people tried to like kind of, you know, strong arm you out of your business and like the warp like I would say empire, but like your warp business that you have now, people tried to like get rid of you?
Yeah, because if I'm not there, the customers would have to go somewhere else. Like the earliest thing, I'm not gonna mention the warper in question,
Right.
but his crew went after me. This was just a couple of months into me warping, and they basically accused me of being a pirate and that I flew people out into lootable PvP and sent them out the airlock and looted them. And as the new guy on the block, like there was very little I felt I could do to carry myself against this well-known person in the game, to say that he's lying, you know.
Right.
Who are you going to believe, the guy that's been in the game for several years or the new guy that appeared like just a few months into it?
Oh my gosh, I think I made. There we go. Okay, all right. So, whatever. It's okay that stays in. Honestly, it's just me fucking with it, and most people just listen to the audio anyway. So, sorry. I'm over here derping around. Yeah, purely a professional stream, Snow Ranger. Thank you. That's actually kind of crazy to hear that. You know, I guess competition's competition, right? Whether that's in space or, you know, anywhere, right? So I guess it kind of makes sense, but it's also kind of sad to see that someone new making the honest investment of spaceship, they're on their way to become, you know, and make that endeavor, that they would just kind of get shut down by established players. So.
Well, I mean, I can see where they're coming from, in a sense, because the more ships that are active, the less customers there is for everyone. But
Right.
in all honesty, just get a Netflix account or something and watch that in between warps.
Right. So do you still suffer from that now that you're a little bit more established? And, well, before I guess we get to that, I guess I could ask, like, how did you handle that? Because you said that you had kind of felt like you feel like you weren't that equipped to handle that situation, and that you were pretty small. So how did you overcome that, first of all?
Well, I actually took a screenshot of the whole conversation, and then I blanked this person's name out because I didn't want to start a witch hunt, you know? So it was just my name visible and then this hidden person's name visible in the chat, and all the accusations against me, and I posted that on my own Discord, so it was like public for everyone to see that like I'm being accused of this, and I say that these are lies. That was the only thing I could think of at the time, that you know, because rumors and like talking over time, it can turn into this very toxic thing.
Right. So going back to, well, maybe the piece that I was asking before, do you still suffer from it today? Like, do you find yourself, after you've become established, do you find yourself still kind of caught up in some turmoil, or are you kind of above that now and you view it as sort of beneath you from now?
People still try, but I pay less attention now because I have the chance of meeting people myself, and they know what kind of service they get from me. That was more of a soft spot earlier when I wasn't as established.
Right. Okay.
So I paid less attention now, but it was like, as I said, people have tried to cancel me several times in this game, and it's more a question like, how long are you going to drag this out before you just like, let's move on?
Right. So, I guess the question that I've got as well would be sort of along the similar questions I've asked before to other people, is like, would you still recommend the warp service investment to a new player now? Do you feel like it's viable as an investment or like a good ROI?
It can be, but like I get asked this a lot actually in game by people looking to get into the warp scene.
Yeah.
Most people underestimate just how much work it is. Like, but a lot of people see when they take a warp, they see a guy on the ship taking it from A to B, and then it's over. They only see that tiny little part. They don't see the time you need to wait for the next warp customer, for example. Like it can be an hour sometimes. Sometimes it can be several hours. And you're just standing there being available. And then the moment you fly down to a planet and go like, I might as well just do this daily down on the planet, you get a warp customer. So it's, oh, well, guess I'm flying back up into the ship again.
It can get kind of frustrating, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, you can't like give the customer any sassy attitude. Oh, I just flew down, type of thing.
Yeah.
Because then you're making them feel like a burden, and that's
You can't take it out
long term never
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Now, I've actually, I'm not gonna name names either, but I've had it where I've reached out to someone who was doing warps, and they're like, "Oh, do you mind if I just finish up this one thing?" But by the time they finished that one thing, I could have already flown myself there myself in a quad, and that kind of negates the reason why I wanted to warp, because I want it now. So, yeah.
Yeah, but then we're back at the whole thing. If you're not available, people will look elsewhere, and then if you treat your customers like that, if it's gonna take, let's say, a random number, let's say half an hour or 10 minutes or whatever,
Right.
you need to be very clear with that, so the customer doesn't stand there and go like, hey,
You make sure to
I
set
need a
the
warp,
expectations.
like, are you
right.
still gonna do this, you know?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So we have a question from a viewer in chat here. Do you have to choose who you warp based on their political alignment or reputation? And then a follow-up question to that would be, like, would you turn down a paying pirate that wants to warp? So I think maybe the question could be asked, like, would you warp a pirate, or are you agnostic of that, and if it's a paying customer, you would just warp them?
I mean, the pirates they go after the most vulnerable players in this game, mostly newbies in Sleipnir's that doesn't know better, and that, for me, it's the only political thing I really subscribe to. I don't really care what goes on down on planets. You gotta draw the line somewhere, but like in space, the pirates, they cause a lot of harm to new players. Let's say somebody is extremely new to the game and they go from their birth planet to another planet to explore, and they lose all their shit on the way. That could actually get somebody to rage quit the game. So I have to deny the pirates, and also because they actively attack my ship as well, screwing with ETAs for other customers. So I don't warp pirates.
Okay, so basically you remain neutral unless it comes to piracy, and then that's where you draw the line. So I think that's a pretty solid way to summarize that as well. So, but I agree. I think that piracy is, it's something that I toyed with for a while, you know, as a something to do, you know, and then I realized that the reputation hit that you would take would be pretty severe in this game, you know.
The karma for pirates in this game is pretty brutal.
It is. It is.
Like, you can PvP and lootable PvP all you want on planets. What most players draw the line is, like, you opt into getting into lootable PvP on planets. When you're going between planets and you cross the lootable PvP there, you have no choice. It's not something you could opt out of, and this is why we see people making threads on the PCF forum to say, hey, make planet-to-planet teleporters down on the planet so we don't have to cross the lootable PvP in between planets, which I don't think is a good thing long-term for the game, because then you could just remove space altogether, if that was what you wanted to do. But yeah, I do think the lootable PvP should be in between the planets, but I think newer players, like part of their newbie tutorial or something, should be a little bit more educated about how space works. Because a lot of people I've rescued from space stations, they don't even have a repair tool on them. They just stuck there.
Yeah, and then they get stuck, and then they're, you know, a lot of people don't know that they can reach out to like Mindark for a warp down to planet, you know, and they just they think that they're stuck, or they might just log out or quit, you know, or maybe have to help, like have to ask for help, you know what I mean? So it puts them in a bad spot. So
Yeah, and
I've seen some players like be extorted because of like, you know, I'm gonna trap you here. You can't get off of this, you know, abandoned space station at like Howling Mine unless you pay me 10 pet or 100 pet or something. So
yeah, we also have one pirate in particular that camps Zeus, and when people, let's say they go from Calypso to Arcadia, there's something called server hopping, where you basically drive over the server line and then you relog, and you will get respawn on Zeus, so you save maybe 5 or 10 minutes of your travel time. That particular pirate sits on top of Zeus and just wait for people to fly out from Zeus, and then he shoots them down because they might have loot on them. And if you talk bad to this person, he will camp you at Zeus. I have done multiple rescues out of my own pocket just to get them out of that space station, because it's not fun sitting trapped on the same space station, to basically get them out of there. So that actually like kind of interferes with their gameplay, because if nobody goes there and helps them, they could be stuck there until the next day.
right. Right.
And I see a question in the chat about that warp ships is the toxic shot thingy for.
Yeah. Okay. So
lootable.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
I'm glad you could make heads or tails of that, because I was struggling with that for a few. So
Okay, let me just clear out a misconception about warp ships. Warp ships are not 100% safe. I have been warp mined 8 times in the last 2 years, and a warp mine basically pulls my ship out of warp into lootable PvP. And when the pirates do this, they usually sit there with enough firepower to blow any ship in the game up within 10-15 seconds, to basically not give the passengers enough time to log out. So you are not 100% safe when you do a warp ship. This is why we have something called safe warp, where you log out before we warp. So let's just clear that out, that you're not 100% safe just because you're standing on a warp ship.
So I'm doing a bit of a history lesson. This was before your time, Rawr.
Yeah.
So the one of the pirate society, but I'm not saying like names because this will be on record. So a pirate society, or the pirate society at the time, attacked a particular ship, and that ship was using a website and a chat system, and one of the pirates made a account to say that it was safe to log on, and they impersonated some of the crew members on that ship. So people were blindly trusting this service on a website to know when to log back in, but the pirates actually impersonated that website. Everyone logged back on and ended up getting shot down and looted. Now, I will say, to the reputation, for those of you who know the story that I'm talking about, the warp ship that was compromised in this way paid everyone what they lost, because it was their fault that the website was taken advantage of in that regards. But you should always try to verify before you log in with the person that you're warping in a very secure chat.
I'm actually very familiar with this event.
Okay.
The issue they had was the chat service they used was called Chatango, and it's like a web chat. And there you can, as an anonymous user, you can pick out like a random anonymous username, which can be very similar to a registered account. So the users in this chat, they saw that, let's say we call this person A. They
Right.
could have just used some special characters where they swap the O for a 0 or something like that, and they would
Right.
look very similar.
Yep. Do you think that Mindark will remove the logout for the Pathfinder or like Mothership in Unreal 5 to prevent this workaround, or do you think that it's intended kind of like a benefit for warping to have the safe passage through a lootable zone?
I mean, in all honesty, I think the safe warp where you log out, because of how the warp ship works, they're basically a house. They're not a vehicle per se on the inside. It's like a regular apartment. This is why you can log out and you log back in the same spots. If they change how this works in Unreal 5, that they're actually a vehicle instead of, a house, safe warps would no longer work the same way as they are right now. So yes, it could be fixed in Unreal 5. But everything is up in the air right now.
Got it. Okay.
And no, I don't have blue hair. It's that picture is from the LAN party, and they had this red, green, and blue disco light changing colors. That's why. Looks like I'm blue-haired.
Well, I was trying to say it was from the text bar or the text box above your head that I colored blue to try to fit it. So, let me see if I missed any questions from the chat. I know there was a lot of chat action going on. When I'm trying to listen to both and read both. Yeah. It's not a strong suit for me, so I apologize if I missed anything from chat.
Yeah. And the question there was will have warp gates. Yes, and the warp gates in this version is also called warp gates. There is one outside of each planet, and it's near those warp gates that you place the warp mine as a pirate to suck warp ships out of it. So them saying interplanetary warp gates means nothing right now. It just means that there will be some form of warping. It doesn't mean, it will stay the same way it is right now. It could change.
I don't think that works in space, Alex, but I could ask Rawr if he's ever experienced that before. So to explain the question to those watching the video and to Rawr here, there is a sort of trick that people use on planet side PvP where you can... I'm gonna die in the game real quick because I've got 2 out on me, and then I can focus on the question. So if you get attacked from a single source of damage and it does over half of your HP, if someone kills you in PvP, they will not get any loot from you. But it has to be a single source of damage, like a single mob, so to speak. Do you know if that same glitch works to prevent being looted in space?
I haven't confirmed this. I would be the wrong person to ask this, but what makes me go is basically to get out into space you would have to enter a new instance. So I think to test this, it would be easier if you go into like an instance on a planet, like a separate cave or something, take the damage, teleport out, and then go into lootable PvP and see does that work or not.
Pretty logical. And I think I would also recommend that test method as well. Get a buddy that you trust, get a toxic shot, and go out with like no HP from like a single mob in an instance. Yeah. So you could test it, but we don't know. Can't confirm. Okay, so changing topics a little bit from space. I know that you are well known and regarded as the person to currently hold the Next Island NFT affiliate link and egg, as it is very, I would say, endearingly referred to as. But what are your thoughts around the recent exchange of the eggs on PCF? And would you recommend that as a viable investment in the long term?
Long term, yes. Short term, no. But like most of us kind of expected Knight to sell at least one of these eggs off, because it makes no sense for you to hold 2 eggs unless you want to collect the pets out of the eggs in Unreal 5. But that's, at least Q1 2025 from what the CEO has said.
So,
and then we don't know how long it will take before the eggs actually hatch.
right. So,
But
what helped you in that decision-making process to make it a right decision for you?
that was actually a long process. We went through the different planets, and at the time, Arcadia was completely dead. Like
Right.
the player base had even left Arcadia at that point because nothing was happening there. So Arcadia from 2022, end of the summer, was like not even in the picture. Like we were waiting for the old Arcadia devs to deliver on some of their promises that they had during the dev stream, but nothing happened. And then when they were pressured about it, things turned dramatic and everyone was reading everything out of context. So we ignored Arcadia. We also looked at other planets like Calypso, because that's the main planet. But the problem there was, like, all you need to do to see what the problem with Calypso was is send in 1 support ticket and see how much they actually care.
Right.
So for us, we wanted a planet partner in between us and Mindark. We looked at Toulon, and Toulon has a competing warp business. Like if you get born on Toulon or Monria, you get free warps on the Yamato, and that isn't really aligned with my interests as a warp ship owner.
Right.
And that left Ni and Cyrene. So at the time, Next Island was making really good progress in updates, and the contact we had at the time, as nobodies, was really good with Ni. Like Socrates at the time was a very open person and easy to approach and talk to, even if you weren't.
Yeah.
So that's why we picked Next Island over Cyrene.
Okay. Is the Cyrene Next Island? Sorry, not Next Island. The Cyrene NFT. Are they a known party or are they an undisclosed party? Because I don't.
They are known. They have a custom user rank on their Discord called the Egg Holder or something like that.
Okay,
So
okay.
he's very known.
Okay.
I haven't spoken much with him though.
Okay. I was just personally curious. I didn't know because I'd seen some names thrown out there for the egg holders, and I didn't remember the one that had the Cyrene one. But that's an interesting perspective, and it sounds like you had a pretty logical approach to which one fit you the best. So
yeah. I mean, we were trying to think 1 or 2 years into the future, and looking past the summer 2022. We were seeing that Arc wasn't really going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
With that said, right now Arc is doing an awesome job. Like, don't interpret me as hating on Arcadia or anything like that. But back then it was a stale, so that's why we didn't want to invest in that one.
Gotcha. So. All right, I have a question from an unnamed person who asked us via a Discord DM. What rank is your current codex for Mary Snargs?
That's a good one. I don't know, actually.
Okay, we can come back to that.
It's pretty high because, like, every single Christmas it goes up to my most favorite thing to hunt. Because those Merry Snarks every Christmas, they global for like 5-6 ped or something like that. So when you're there grinding to get your Christmas kills, you global a lot, like a silly amount.
Right. So we just got another question from a viewer here. How do you feel about Equises, I guess Firebirds, etc. Do you feel like adding more in the future competes with you, or not really a concern for you?
I actually love the Firebirds and Equus because there's always those people that don't want to pay the markup on the warp with a regular warp ship, and the Equises with their weight limit that they add to the game, like they're not meant to transport loot, they're meant to transport a person from A to B cheaply. So they definitely have a place in the game as far as I look at it. They don't really directly compete with me though, because the customers that go for my ship, or my weight class I should say, they either bring a friend, so they're more than just one person, or they want to do a safe warp. So we have those two niches for the bigger ships that the smaller ones cannot fulfill. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And so I think like to the person who just asked the question's point with his just recent reply here, there was a bit of a stance that was taken by a few players that there was sort of like this way of bypassing the weight limit of these ships and that class of ship, where they have these Lux boxes. That was around for a while, by the way. The anti-grav thing has been a thing for a while.
there's still a thing.
Yeah, but I think like it was a thing that Mindark had been quiet about, so people were stipulating that it was not intended, and that people were like kind of getting around that. But I'm assuming, and you might know more than I do, Rawr, because you have a bit of a relationship with these guys. But with the recent introduction of the anti-grav boxes that are literally called anti-grav boxes in Next Island, that seems to be something that Mindark is fully aware of and that they allow. Would you agree?
There's also anti-grab boxes from Calypso as well.
Right.
So it's Calypso, Rocktropia, and Next Island have anti-grab boxes, and yes, initially, yeah, that they could be nested one inside of another. I think that was not intended, but hey, it's a feature now. That's the Minark way.
Yeah.
But yes, you can bypass the weight restrictions on those ships with those by putting a box inside of a box inside of a box. I don't see that as a problem though when it comes to competition, because you're still fairly vulnerable inside of an Equus if you get warp mined. Because when you get warp mined, there will be several quads there. The pirates even showed up with a mothership and a pathfinder when they shot me down. They had a fully crewed mothership, fully crewed pathfinder, and they had 2 or 3 quads waiting at the warp mine.
Wow.
So, like, if you transport a lot of loot inside of an Equus, you're taking that risk, but you're also paying less for the warp. So it's kind of like the scales kind of get even there, risk versus reward.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And one of the viewers just said that they think that Cyrene has recently confirmed the release of anti-grav boxes in the near future as well. So they do see it as an intended interaction also. So, but again, to echo what Rawr said, it's unknown if the embedding of one into the other and the stacking of the effect was intended or not. But now that's the world that we live in, whether or not it was initially intended or not. So yeah. So keeping on the lines of the space-planet relationship and piracy, so as you know, there is some turmoil in the community when it comes to people being taken up to space from hunting. Do you have any sort of opinion on this subject, and where do you draw the line in the sand? Because I know that you've said, and I'm trying to be fair to you here, that you try to keep planet and space piracy, but do you view that as one and the same, or do you still sort of categorize people differently on that behavior?
Well, you first need to visit like what makes a person a pirate, and that is looting them in space, is where most players agree on. That is, the act of piracy when you literally loot somebody in space. So if they've flown people into lootable PvP on planets, it wouldn't be in the space domain at all. But when they fly people up in space, and they, in this particular case, they claim they're doing it for a righteous thing. They're only targeting people that are macroing. But one of the people they flown up was panicking, asking how the heck do I get out of a quad, and he was flown out into lootable space because he couldn't exit seats while he was being flown out. Where that whole righteous speech is not really holding. So most ship owners label these people that fly people out into space with the intent of looting them as pirates.
So, sorry, I think we had a little bit of a jinx there. So you view these as one and the same. Like if you loot someone in space, you're a pirate. If you kept it on planet, then you're just another PKer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
That's pretty straightforward. I tend to agree with that. So Paint Ghost has a question. So far in your gameplay, Rawr, what has been your most memorable loot or event that you have had in the game? Or like loot event, I guess.
My most memorable event was actually back when I was a newbie, and that was down on Arcadia, and I've spent about 2 or 3 weeks into the game, and I was having issues getting my pet card to last because I didn't know about sweating. I just followed the quest line, and I did it slowly, but I ran out of pad, and it was this guy called Jens, I think his name was, and he literally flew me to where the sweat circle was, and then everyone just welcomed me and told me more or less how to play the game. If I had to put one event over everything, it must be that, because that's when the whole community clicked for me. It wasn't that people gave me items or guns or ammo or anything like that. It was just that people took their time to say welcome and explain how the game worked.
Right.
It was officially when I got hooked on the game.
Nice. So, one of my stock questions is, if Mindark was listening right now, what's something that you would, what's something you would have them hear? What's something that you would say to Mindark?
Fix the support. It's the one thing I think that's the biggest flaw in the game right now. And I think a lot of players agree that once you send in a ticket, it's so hard getting heard. Or getting taken serious, or anything like that.
Yeah. I think that's a pain point for a lot of the players right now, is...
It's like you can have a really nice looking engine, you can do everything right in the game, but if the support fails, that's where you will bleed your customers.
Yeah, I remember this was kind of a bit of a talking point on some of my previous Q&As as well, you know, for Mindark to improve their support structure. And I think a lot of people end up kind of in a futile kind of loop with them, you know, where they get a copy paste response. They can't really seem to get a human on the other end of the horn. And I've seen it very recently, you know, where a particular player that I'm friends with was out mining and lost about 50 odd claims due to a power outage in his region, and tried to make an appeal to Mindark in a support case, and just couldn't get him to do what was right and try to reimburse him what he had lost, you know. And
yeah, I second that as well, because you easily get stuck in where you contact the first agent and he gives you a template or whatever. He doesn't read your tickets, and he just assigns a ticket. Then agent number 2, 3, and 4 coming after, they assume that the first guy did his job. proper. It's so hard to get the latecomers in that history of that ticket to go back and verify, did we really do the correct thing here? And once you're stuck in that limbo or that loop, you're screwed.
Right.
And yes, I have to agree. The Planet Partner support via Discord is way better than Mindark support. And that is because they actually read what you say.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I've had my own run-in with live support every once in a while, but live support is here for very basic triage. They are here for basically an interactive FAQ, you know. So if you're going the route for live support, don't have your hopes very high. They don't have a lot of privileges or power to do things or get stuff done. So
yeah, that's Mindark's doing, and that's the distrust between their own agents. Because we have had issues in the past where, you know, official items went rogue.
Very true. Very true.
So their defense against this is to strip everyone that has any form of power in the game down to a minimum, and that makes it so the live support guys, the only thing they can do is apologize. Like, that's the only power they have, or give you a quick answer to a question you have. And in my eyes, that is a big flaw. Like, they should at least be able to reach out to somebody that has the power needed to help you to get something done if needed, but they can only write a note to their manager and that's it. So I wouldn't want to trade places with the live support guys. I've worked with support in the past and dealt with a lot of annoying customers to basically Dr. Phil them down to where they're calm, so you can then, you know, get to the root cause and help them. Because when somebody's kicking and screaming, you're not gonna get anywhere. And if you can't even have a chance of helping the customer, you're in an even tougher spot, which the live support currently is. Like, they can't do anything. I think there's only 2 Mindark officials in game that actually have the power to teleport people, from my past experiences.
Yeah, I think that's something that they need to fix, you know, and I think that was not to you know, keep harping on my previous Q&As, but that was something that was brought up, was like, you know, they have to fix fundamental issues, and, you know, especially before you get into the next engine, you know, because you can't expect like the hype to last or the new engine to fix everything, right? So I think there's some fundamental things that Mindark needs to address, or at least there's concern from the player base that needs to be heard. So I definitely agree with you, and I think they could really make some improvements around support for sure. You know, even if it's just changing up their responses every once in a while to make it seem more human, other than just someone copying and pasting the same thing. So,
well, I mean, if you're in the game for a longer time, you start to pick up, like, this is a template, this is a template, this is a template.
yeah,
Like, once you've gotten the same response from somebody that can't be arsed to read your tickets, you start building up this reptile brain of getting angry the moment you see that template, regardless of if it's the actual template that answers your question or not. And the fact that they don't see a problem with this, like, I wonder how much angry emails they get per day just from people that think they're not getting heard.
Yeah, there was one point in time, and I've recently heard from another player who's suffered from this as well, where I stumbled upon something that I thought was pretty severe as far as like bugs or exploits go, right? So I was not even able to trust Mindark support. I wanted to get like someone high up the chain, you know. So, you know, corruption exists, and I'm not here to speculate, but I wanted to get more eyes on it, so I decided to make a PCF post. And although it could be argued that that's not the right channel to take it up with, you can get a lot of traction by posting something a little bit, you know, publicly. and almost forcing Mindark's hand. And that's kind of the situation that a lot of people feel like they're kind of forced into, is to sort of like put it out there for everyone to see. And that's not the game that I want to be playing. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Yeah, I try to stay away from PCF and rookie chat because there's too much drama there, and that's, you know, part of the whole trying to be neutral.
Right.
Not engaging with too much either cancel culture or just pure rage. Because it does nothing really for me. Like, I wish someone high up on my, maybe with the new spokesperson in their board, we might have a change. But then when I googled his name, I saw he's also the guy that owns that castle that Mindark acquired several years ago.
Right.
So I'm not optimistic when it comes to any big changes, but I'm gladly proven wrong in this case.
Right.
My best I would be pork on a pizza. Pork or ham, some form of meat on a pizza.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Depends on what else is on the pizza. I don't like pineapple by itself. No.
Like a traditional Hawaiian style pizza is like Canadian bacon, which is just ham, and like pineapple. Is that cool for you, or no?
I mean, I've had one pizza where it's pineapple on it, and it's also bananas and curry on it. But like, then we're starting to get into the territory where it's kind of not a pizza anymore.
Yeah, like bananas and curry. What?
Yeah, and then some chicken on it.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I never order something with pineapple, unless the pizzeria is known to screw up and you get dry pizza. Then the fruits on it would actually moist it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
People are going nuts about the moist. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. But no. People wonder why I don't have the Twitch chat open on the VODs, and man, if you're ever curious, if you're watching the VOD right now and this is left in, then just come here for the real deal, and then you'll know why.
Oh yeah, there's a whole argument about pineapple going on right now.
I do like, okay, so when I went over to Sweden and I was going to a smoothie shop, and I don't speak Swedish, and I saw ananas or whatever it is. I thought that was like banana, because I'm okay, ananas, you know, like bananas, you know, and stuff.
Oh yeah, ananas.
Yeah. However you guys say pineapple, you know. And I ordered the smoothie, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like, you know, some banana variant or base, you know, smoothie. And it was like some pineapple mango something. It was still fine, but like it just wasn't what I was expecting. So.
Well, I mean, cool. The Swedish word for banana is banan, so it's very similar.
Yeah. I think like one of the most memorable times over there, well, besides like me and Tina going into the airlock at Mindark, was when you know, we had all been out for dinner, and we were going to like an authentic place, you know, and Tina got the fermented herring or something, and I went with like the Swedish meatballs and those weird like berries y'all have. What are those called? Like lindenberries or something? Or maybe it's something else.
Lingon, I think.
Lingon, yeah.
Yeah, that's a jam. I think it's cowberry in American.
Okay.
And it's basically a regular berry that we put together with meatballs and some mashed potatoes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Some brown sauce.
It was really good food over there. And then we went to get some kebab, and the guy that we were ordering the kebab from didn't speak hardly any English, so that was entertaining. So try to describe what we wanted, but for the most part, everyone over there, you know, spoke really well English.
Yeah, they teach English from the age of 7 and 8 here in Sweden. That's why a lot of Swedish people speak English well. But because one thing I think the school kind of screws up with is they put a Swedish person to teach English to the kids. If they put, like, let's say an American or a British person that has that accent in school, that stiff Swedish accent that a lot of Swedish people have would be gone. I can't mimic the Swedish accent perfectly now, but yeah, it's very stiff. Like I, thank you, and stuff like that.
It was an older gentleman that I ordered the kebab from, so maybe before his time. But no, Tina is a player in the game. My wife does not play the game, nor was she my wife at the time. So it was me and my mom that went to Sweden back in the LAN party. So.
Yeah. I was actually at the LAN party there. It was fun to meet all the Entropia players and be able to geek out. Just like any demo party or LAN party, you typically go there and meet people with a similar interest.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I have a question
Yeah,
about
I got it.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah. So thanks for that. I missed it before. I just replied. So what do you think about No Man's Sky or Star Citizen? What parts of this game do you wish? What parts of these games do you wish you could be able to see in Entropia?
No Man's Sky. I haven't played that game. I have watched other people play it. It looks interesting, being able to go and grab ores and stuff from different planets and that kind of stuff. But I don't consider that game being $60 worth, because the replayability of that game doesn't hold. You do a playthrough or two with some friends and then you're done. Star Citizen, it's a very expensive game to get started in. It's also up in the $60 category, $75 category, and to get your first ship, and that's kind of like your license fee of the game. I do like the static of that game. It's very eye candy. And you know, as you warp and you can fly down on the planets with no loading screen, I love that. That's my favorite feature, for example, with Space Engineers. So Star Citizen has a lot going for it, but they have no withdrawals. You can sink as much money as you want into that game, and that day when you get bored, you cannot cash out. So that's why I don't want to touch Star Citizen, is because I look at it as a waste of time in the grand scheme of things. At least for me.
Right. Any questions for me, Rawr? Because I know the last Q&A that I had a few questions come in. So this goes both ways, by the way. So I'm an open book. So same goes for chat. So if you ever wanted to put me on the spot for something, now's your chance. So.
I mean, what was your earliest memory from this game when you basically went, oh, I want to stay?
So when I got my start, I was kind of misled by a certain person who was my mentor. I don't even remember the guy's name. That's how little of an impact he's had on my memory. So I took a bit of a break and came back, and I had like a broken ankle at the time. So I had a bunch of free time on my hands, and the guy that I met was Impin' Ain't Easy, and he pretty much got me into the game because of the community, or like the little sub community that I had within Dirty Dingoes. Like, I mean, Graf is here in chat. I know he can speak to that awesome community in Dirty Dingoes, and me and Impin really did a lot to grow the the Twitch community at the time, and you know, some of the new, like, we gave a lot of insight into like the newbie scene, because at the time I was like a level 16, you know, and I was doing like healing for the most part, and I was dabbling in PvP at like 145 HP with like untiered infiltrator and 6A plates, not really knowing what I was doing with like a Herman Raw 505 rifle from Arcadia. So I think once I got synced up with the guys in Dirty Dingo, Dirty Dingoes, I really got into the game. Specifically, my mentor, Imp Ain't Easy, got me hooked. I love that guy. You know, I still love him, and we keep in touch to this day. But it's because of the relationships that I was able to form with players that captivated me.
Yeah, it's the same. It's very similar to my first experience as well. Like when you get that connection with other players. So like, it's not really the content in the game that actually make people stick around. It's the other players.
Right. We've also got a couple questions coming in. So Snow Ranger had one first, and I'll get to Wolfstar after that. Do you see yourself staying a warp pilot for a long time? And does the looming Unreal 5 engine release tempt you at all, that makes you want to play more and warp less?
I mean, I have dead periods in the warping where I actually have time to go down and poke the contents. So I don't see that changing. Like, it goes in waves. When people, you have different time zones when people come home from work, before they go to bed, type of thing, and it goes in because it goes in waves. It's like you have the Europeans, you have the Russians, you have the Americans, and you also have the Brazilians, which are the major player bases in this game. And when their 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. strikes, that's when people come home and they want to go from one planet to another so they can do their hunt for the next couple of hours. And then while they're doing their hunt, I have nothing to do. So that's when I have time to explore other content and do my dailies or whatever. And I do think people's work habits won't change just because of a engine update. If that makes sense.
You know, I think I see what you're saying, you know, so. Another question from Wolfstar is, what do you think about using Entropia as a place for all space enthusiasts to meet? Is it like a game? It's sorry, I'm butchering this. It's a game, but some people like space, sci-fi, cyberpunk, etc. That seems to be a common thing with the Entropians.
I mean, we chip owners, we do meets around just to chill and goof around. I have other players that just enjoy space too, but in the current version, there's not a lot of, like, we don't have a bar per se where we can hang out and chill. The closest thing we have is Athena Spaceport on Calypso, inside of the building next to the TP there. We just, you know, wait for our next customer while we check the auction or craft or do whatever. But yeah, like, it would be nice if we had a hangout in space where we could just, you know, grab a space beer or whatever. Like, they could even add that to the space stations, you know, a little side part there where you could just sit in a chair and chill.
Gotcha. You know, I think like so are you like the head of the space mafia? Did I hear that correctly, by the way? I thought you like that one. So.
I was accused of being this when one person started yelling warp mines. And like, warp mines affects not just one ship. You cannot target one ship in space with a warp mine. So there's a higher risk that multiple ships trigger this warp mine, because those warp mine, they linger in space for an hour, and every time you warp, you have a chance of actually getting sucked out of warp and spat out where the warp mine is. So when people start making warp mine threats in general, us ship owners, we let each other know that there might be a warp mine this weekend, type of thing. And because this person started screaming warp mine so loudly, he got blacklisted on a bunch of ships because of, you're trying to screw with my business, then I don't want to warp you, type of thing.
Right.
And when he got blacklisted on so many ships so quickly, that's where the accusations that I believe the space mafia comes from. And most of the other ship owners, they just laugh and say, thank fucking God it's not us getting accused of this time. Welcome to the club, Rawr.
So I guess maybe now it's kind of shifted to where you're now the focus, right? So that's funny. I'm assuming so some people might be appreciative now that you're taking the spotlight off of them now. So that's funny. Oh wow.
Yeah. But I think it's partially because I'm the newer guy, and like if you're looking for somebody to step on strategically, I can see where you're coming from when you go, that guy is a lot newer, so he would be easier to step on rather than this old guy that has been around for several years and have a proven reputation.
Right. Like kind of like cut it off before they can kind of develop into something and become like a formidable threat. I mean, it makes sense, right? So you are the owner of the Lady Crasherhelm, if I have that correct, right?
Yes.
So what other kind of Uber gear are you sitting on, or is that pretty much the only kind of Uber piece of gear you have that's unique?
That's the only thing that's really unique. As in, there's not a lot.
Well, besides the next island egg, I'm assuming like that.
Yeah, okay, that would be the same class, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have an LR20 adjusted.
Okay.
That I run around with and do my dailies. I also have the 10S RK.
Oh, the unlimited repair tool. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Because I do repair a lot, so for me it makes sense to own it.
Yeah.
But then I also have the 10S quad as well. That
you have the unlimited quad from the same event. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on both a quad and an unlimited RK actually dropped during the 10S event on my ship. Like, you looted the unlimited RK10 on my ship.
I wasn't gonna say that, but yeah, that mean.
Yeah. And then Shaman looted the quad, the 10S quad. Like, I, as a ship owner, I watched both of those things drop in front of me, and it was like, my precious. So that's why I have to own them. Like, for me, it makes sense.
I had the item discovery actually on the RK0 unlimited. So, and yeah, it was on your ship. I remember it was like 7 in the morning, and I'd been awake all night. So it was worth it. The question coming in: what do you think about joining or creating a space community?
There are several space communities already. It's just that they're fragmented. There's no one single one to rule them all type of community. And that is, again, because of politics. One person can't stand that guy can't stand that guy. So that's why there's several smaller space communities to cater for politics, more or less. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get a lot of players involved to actually make some demands on, for example, Mindark to fix the space grids. And what I mean with that, to somebody that's not familiar with space, is just like server regions on planets can go down, they can go down in space as well, except when they go down in space, you're stuck. Like, you are so stuck until the next restart, which is Tuesdays. So you could literally be stuck in limbo until next Tuesday. If it happens on a Wednesday, you're gonna have to wait a whole week. And one thing is, if let's say Arcadia goes down, the space region around Arcadia, and I've warped from Calypso to Arcadia, the warp drive will engage, and I will be in the warp tunnel, and I will get a red error message that this unable to execute, or this region is no longer available. That means that that server around Arcadia is down, like it crashed, and my ship will be stuck in limbo until somebody flicks a switch at the MA office to restart that region. If it happens on Calypso, it gets corrected really quick, but if it happens somewhere like Toulon, NI, Arcadia, or Cyrene, it will be next week. And putting in some demands, like I can kick and scream all I want, but I don't think Mindark will be any more motivated to actually fix these issues if it's, you know, just little old me.
Yeah, and I think like I've also experienced a similar situation where I was not getting traction by myself, and so I had to have a lot of friends and not friends do support cases before to get something seen. And you sort of like flood support with a bunch of cases and like, oh, maybe we should pay attention to that. So it's kind of the world that we live in right now. So yeah,
it's also like people make threads on PCF about stuff like that. And
yeah,
9 times out of 10, Mindark still ignores it.
well, I mean, that also ties into what I said earlier, right? Because if you want something done, we're kind of forced to take, you know, a public thread approach and make it available to everybody, you know, and then Mindark's kind of forced to do something about it.
Yeah.
Have a good night, Emryu. Good to see you here. So I've got a question that came in here. Do you think that space missions and combat has a good future? What do you think about it now in its current state?
Right now, space is kind of boring. Like, the most interesting thing to do in space right now is maybe the dropship, but that's, you know, a 1.5k cycle throughout your crew to do one wave, or do the whole waves, I mean, for it. Other than that, you have, what, 4 different kinds of mobs in space? There's nothing really other than that. Like, once the initial magic is gone from hunting these, or exploring these, I should say, it becomes really boring. Like, my space needs an update, more for the ships or the quads or whatever to do. The only thing that is somewhat a random encounter is the occasional pirate in space, you know.
Right.
So I hope they add something more for ship, for space to have a purpose in the next engine, and just not for travel. But like, space is Mindark's domain. They make the calls. Planet partners have nothing they can do about space or the space region around their planet, from what I understand.
Wow. You would think that like those privileges would at least extend. In my mind, I would have thought that it was like at least to the nearest training ground. You know what I mean? So that's actually kind of surprising that there's like no say in what goes on in space. But what about Arcadia Moon? Like, is that kind of like a gray area, or do you know?
Arcadia Moon belongs to the Arcadia devs,
Okay.
just like Foma and
Well, yeah, like Foma and like
CP.
Monria would be to
Yeah,
Toulon, and yeah, okay, that makes
So
sense.
they have their own regions, but if you think about how, in what direction the game is going, they have a good system that's starting to mature now with the planet partners. We can tell that the planet partners are getting more well received by Mindark because of how much content they're putting out in the version updates.
Oh, pardon me, I have to make a correction. DSEC and Monria. I mean, DSEC and Toulon. Monria is Callie's Moon. Thank you, by the way, for that correction in chat.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut
But
you off.
I can tell that we're going into an era where more of the game's content will be provided by the planet partners.
Right.
And all Mindark really needs to be at that point is a service provider. So they only need to look out for the basic engine, while the planet partners look after the player base. Which puts Mindart in a very good position. The only thing that really worries me is the amount of bugs, like engine bugs. I understand the engine is ancient and there's so much code that they don't even know what's doing anymore. But like, if they would have focused a little bit more on correcting the engine bugs, we would be, as a whole community, in a really good spot.
Right.
Yeah, but Monria is also belongs to Calypso. That's why they have the same codex. So there's a limited amount of things Virtual Sense can do to Monria. They have more freedom in DSEC 9 and on Toulon than they have on Monria. That's the point that we're trying to drive through in the chat.
Is there a LAN party going on?
No, I'm not on the LAN party
Okay.
this time around. I was invited, but it was really bad timing for me this time around. We were trying to get the LAN party slightly rescheduled or moved a little bit. Several of us that wanted to attend to the LAN party, but it wasn't received well, so we had to skip this LAN party. And this was, we tried this several months ago, so it's not like a last minute thingy where we said, hey, can you move it a couple of days just for little Mimi?
So what are your future goals for the game? Like, if we had to talk like future case, do you see yourself giving like you know, giving a go for hunting or crafting? Like, what's your next step after warping? Like, what's your next in your like priority list, I would say?
Hunting and crafting is the two things I focus on the most, other than warping. I'm around level 40 to 50 in those two professions.
Wow. Okay.
My highest profession is vehicle structural engineer.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Good question just came in. What is your HP?
Let's see, without rings or anything like that, I'm 173.
173. That's not bad. That's actually very good. A lot more than I would have actually guessed, to be honest. Have you unlocked Scientist yet? Because I think you can get that through VSE. Okay, no?
Yeah, I'm level 47 in VSE.
So close. You're getting there, you know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a question. You don't have to answer, and we can cut it out if you want. When are you gonna overtake JBK on his captain level?
I think he's what?
87 or something crazy like that?
Yeah, no, that's not gonna be this year or next year.
Okay, okay.
Because it slows down so dramatically when you hit level 30.
Yeah.
It's like you hit a brick wall. It goes really fast up to that point, and then it just slows down so extremely.
It tapers off, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, your evader skills also feed into the captain skill, like your avoidance and those things. They go on evade, dodge, I think sometimes jammer, and also captain.
Right.
Because captain skill is your evade for the ship when you're in space. Like if somebody shoots a Kismet at you,
okay,
or a mob attack you, it's the captain skill that is your evade. It's also your evade for warp mines when you warp.
So where's that information coming from?
Which information?
So, evade, jamming, and dodge. If let me look here. Hang on, give me a sec.
Just look up avoidance on the wiki.
Well, I'm not talking about that. Give me a second. So,
yeah.
Is it listed separately? I thought it was listed separately. It's like
it is listed in the Mythic one at the end.
Okay.
Miscellaneous.
Is it?
Yes.
That's where captain's located, yes, but that's not where dodger and jammer and stuff is located.
No, it's in your first in combat.
Right. So, okay. What? I've never heard this before. So, I'm curious where the captain being your dodge, evade, or something in space comes into play. Because every time that I have anytime that I've ever like hunted a space mob, I get evaded. Like if I'm in the gunner seat and it shoots me, I evade. I don't gain.
It's the pilot that his captain level that counts, not the gunner.
Where is that information coming from?
That is from Mindark actually, when they were explaining how space works with the karma. And it's basically when the mob miss you, you actually get EXP for it.
Okay.
Weirdly enough.
Okay.
And I'm level 21 in Sweatgather. Somebody asked that.
Sorry. What?
Jared asked Sweatgather, both of you. And I said I'm level 21.
Level 21. I am. I don't even know what level Sweatgather I am. It was probably up here before.
It's on the Mind Force.
Is it?
Yeah.
14. Almost 15. Drop a probe. Thanks, Crab.
Noob.
I am. I'm not as big of a noob as you are, though.
Well, I mean,
See,
I'm just taking the small victories. Like now, I have 1% profession. I'm actually higher in than you. You know.
No, because that shows that you're more of a noob than I am. So.
I just spent more time as a noob.
It's the unachieved profession that I have is mentor, by the way. Yeah, Dan, we all know that you're like the Uber Sweat Gatherer here, man. There's no question about it, man. Welcome back, Rawr. Good to have you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for agreeing to this, man. Like, I mean, it's been a great time so far, and really happy to have you here. So, good stuff. Did you pay for your unlimited quad, or did you loot it? By the way, did you like purchase it or no?
I purchased it from a sockmate.
Okay.
The reason why I had to own that quad was an unlimited quad only makes sense to a pirate, really. Because you stop paying markup when you bust up your quad. So me acquiring this unlimited quad was basically denying one more unlimited quad being used by pirates.
That has to be the most respectable thing that I've ever heard you say.
Thank you. Because when somebody shoots at my quad, it's like 1 to 20 in terms of decay when you factor in the ammo and the decay on the Kismet and all that, versus what it costs to me repairing it. It's not that expensive. I just throw it into the repair terminal and boom, I got the TT value repaired on the quad.
Right.
I mean, there's 4 more, I think, unlimited quads in the game. I don't know. I know one of them at least was like owned by one of the pirates.
There's a torchbearer, and there's a few other variations of it as well. I'm not sure about
some of those are count bound though.
Yeah.
They're not tradable.
Yeah.
The 10S quads are tradable. See, somebody already know how many it is for twins in the game. But imagine all of the active pirates in the game having unlimited quads. It would be really annoying.
Okay, we got a couple questions coming in. What do you think about the idea that Mindark wants pirates to be a part of the game? They put this in and they allow it to happen, or do you think that it's just like coincidence of the current space rules?
No, if Mindark didn't want pirates in the game, they wouldn't make lootable space a thing. Like, they already retracted the lootable lines, so the area around the space station isn't directly lootable like it was back in the day. This is why you get the warning when you undock from a space station that you're close to lootable PvP. That's a legacy bug, actually. But if Minarch didn't want piracy to be a thing, they wouldn't have lootable PvP in space.
I mean, they've made improvements around expanding the safe zone for, you know, the planets and stuff, you know, before you get into lootable PvP, because it used to be right after you flew outside of the space station, you were basically opening yourself up for looting. And even the improvements, the small improvements that they've made towards just being able to fly down to the planet from the space station without having to pay the fee is drastic, you know, so I think they've actually made it more fair in the recent years, so. So JJ asked, let's say they did remove lootables from space. How much of an impact do you think that would have on your business or the business of other warp ship owners? I personally have often wondered this as well. Do you think people would still be willing to like pay that markup for just the convenience factor of being instantly warped to their destination and not having to wait 30 to 45 minutes? Or do you think that that risk of being looted really plays a factor in driving the demand for those warps?
We have two types of customers in space, really. You have the one that transport loot and don't want to be looted. And we also have the average Joe that comes home from work and doesn't want to spend an hour or two in a quad in space to get to where they want to go to play the game. If they removed lootable space in the game, the only customer that would want to pay for markup would be the time saver, not the one that's afraid of their loot. So yes, it would impact a lot of warp ship owners. But also, like, if you want to save money on warps, you can. There's scheduled warps as well that are cheaper. Instead of the VIP warps. Like I mainly do VIP warps, so I respond when somebody wants to go from A to B and they want to go now. If you go for the scheduled warps, there's even like big industries do weekend warps that are free. That doesn't cost you anything to attend to. So if you can sync with those, you can travel from one planet to another for free. It's just a question of how much in a hurry you are.
I think I find myself falling into the second bucket personally. I'm a time saver, you know. I would rather pay and just be there instantly, you know, versus like transporting a lot of materials myself. But I've also transported loot a lot of times, you know, so I guess I'm kind of both, but more inclined to say that I'm a time saver personally. So I would probably still warp also if that was removed, just to save the time, the convenience fee of it all. So
yeah. Okay, here's a good question from JJ. Another thing is, I wonder if they made it so you could get looted if you're logged in or not. How many ships are capable of defending themselves against an increased pirate activity? Very few ships, because you have to warp with a full crew in order to fight a pirate attack. Like when I've been warp mined, they basically. The first times I was warp mined, they brought enough firepower to take down Normandy. Because Normandy and Cronon was the actual targets. I just happened to be very active during the time, so that's why I got hit with so many warp mines early on. And Normandy has above 200k SI. That's like 200k SI total. Each section of the ship, a mothership, is divided in 4 sections. So the back end, for example, that's either the hangar or the propulsion on a mothership. So what the pirates do, they only attack one section of your ship. Like from my ship, for example, they try to attack the rear end of my ship because that's my propulsion. So only one of my repair points really counts in a pirate attack. And for you to out repair the damage a quad do, you need around one person with an RK25 and one with an RK0 to actually out heal the DPS a quad does. And if they bring a mothership and a privateer as well, you need a lot of crew on your ship to be able to defend against a mothership, a privateer, and a bunch of quads. And they usually always bring enough firepower so they are sure they can shoot you down within 20 seconds. And the reason why is because they want to shoot you down before you can log out. So there's very few ships that would actually withstand increased pirate activity. The only thing that doesn't make them as common right now is that the warp mines are so hard to craft. Well, there's the transformer in the warp mines that's hard to get. They're almost like a unicorn in the game right now. And I think that is something Minorc had something to do because they control the loot. If they wanted pirates to be even more active, they would increase the drop chance of these transformers so people could make the warp mines.
So I guess you're saying that's basically Monarch's way of trying to like reduce piracy or get rid of it altogether, or open to interpretation.
I mean, the pirates were very active last year. Around 2021 to 2022, around that Christmas was when they were the most active. One of the things that happened was the Great Cookie Heist, as a lot of people refer to it.
Yeah.
And that was Next Island gave out these cookies that gave you 5-hour skill boosts, and they were tradable, which means they were also lootable. So one warp ship owner did free warps between all the planets that had, free Christmas gifts, and then between Next Island and Toulon, they placed a warp mine. So when all these newbies were on the ship, they got hooked on this warp mine, and then that ship got blown up. And there was so many people that spawned out in space that the pirates didn't have time to loot them all.
Wow.
They changed that so the cookies became non-tradable, but in my does HP help in any way in space? Like if you have 300? Yes, there is a one method. If you have enough HP to survive a couple of hits by a quad, or 1 or 2 hits, there is one meta I've heard of where people actually eat a medistim before they get blown up.
That doesn't work anymore.
Oh, they changed it?
Yep. And I would say that you're better off putting a divine intervention on yourself, hoping that you roll high on the odds of that popping, and putting on a bunch of burn armor. Because I've survived up to 7 hits by putting a divine intervention and a lot of burn protection on my ass. So you're welcome.
Yes, Kismet is burn, mothership guns are burn, 3 of my guns, the purple ones in the front, are electric, and the rest of mine are burn.
But your quad's gonna be burned, so...
Actually, no, Kismet, I think that's electric as well.
Is it?
I can double check that. Just give me a second.
But yeah, no, I've had great success with like Hermes and high tier limited armor like that.
Kismet is penetration and electric. A
stand
small
corrected
portion
then.
of pen.
I stand corrected then.
Yeah, 128 damage electric and 25 pen. Main difference between them is the fire rate and the range.
No, I always put on my PvP set and just put a Divine Intervention on. And I think when you're just like your naked avatar taking hits against a Kismet, your dodge level plays in. So high dodge, good PvP armor. Apparently, electric and pin is your way to go.
Yeah.
So
Mostly electric.
So get a set of Thunderbird and a set of AP66 pin plates and laugh your ass off while they try to shoot you. Is what I'm hearing. So, have you ever been scammed in the game, Rawr?
Yes. I think everyone has at some point, or
by a player or by Mindark? No, I'm sorry, that was a bad joke.
Both.
Oh.
But a player, not to mention his name, it was basically somebody asked for a collateralized loan, and I was feeling nice that day. A little bit nicer than I probably should have been. Let's just say that the guy never came back and paid that back. So now I have a gun I have no interest in.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess at least you had the little bit of collateral, so yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't really cover the loan amount. I honestly think the guy went and asked people for collateralized loans to liquidate his account and then just withdraw everything, and I haven't seen him on since.
Is he still searchable in the registry? Because I mean, you could maybe try to find him if his avatar still exists.
He's still in my friend list, so.
Okay, so he still exists, but you think he could have maybe, just dipped out. Wow. What are some tips you could give to people to avoid that happening? I think that we're all human. We're all victims of the old, trust kind of thing, So, what's some steps you could take to prevent that?
Don't take something that's very niche as a collateral, because you gotta think about when you actually have to go for plan B and liquidate this item. How hard would it be? If it's something really niche that only would appeal to maybe 1 or 2 players, it would be a nightmare trying to get your money back at that point. So if you're taking collateral, make sure it's something that you feel sure of being able to flip or liquidate so you can get your money back. Yeah, CLDs were really popular as collateral. I loved those for collateral, but Mindark changed it because they needed to change how the deed payouts are. And from like a programming standpoint, I can see why they did it, because they had to go through everyone's inventories, every container, everything, to see how many CLDs you had, because some people put them in their cars just to get the item slots down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was sad when they changed the CLDs.
There was a very big uproar when CLD change went out. Like, a lot of people were kicking and screaming. Like, I mean, it was severe.
The biggest valid issue that people raised that I have to agree with was the amount of time that Mindark gave the community to react to this. I think it was just a week or 2 from them announcing that they're changing CLDs to when they actually did it. Like,
it was very quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I in my opinion, it should have been a month, maybe 2 months, so people can settle all their loans and do all that crap in time. 1 or 2 weeks isn't enough time for the whole community to react.
Right.
I do think they will change AODs soon. But if you think about when they changed CLDs, Arcadia was just kind of reviving, and they had a lot on their plates. So I don't think they had time to sign the papers or agree to anything at that point.
So for those of you who are missing it, watching the recording, the question was if AUDs and AMDs would change sort of like CLDs did in the past. So eventually I think that we'll all kind of get on the share structure that we're seeing now, with the NTI and the AMD, or the, sorry, Calypso and things like that. Like, it's going to be like a share kind of thing, all in the share center. That'll be how they manage it.
And yes, West Coaster wants everyone to know that he has a parrot that apparently can breathe underwater.
I didn't know I needed that information, but thank you, West, for sharing. Glad to have you here. So there's another question from West that I wasn't sure I'm going to ask. I wasn't sure before the Q&A started, but now that it's kind of getting going, and I'm like, you know, my 4th beer right now, I'm feeling brave enough to ask this. So I got a PM from West Ghoster.
Oh dear.
For a question. You've already had one of them. So the other one is, like, as a tyrant dictator of the space mafia, what do you do to stay in shape?
What I do to stay in shape? Well, crack the whip, I guess.
Oh. So the whipping motion really helps you stay in shape. Okay.
Yeah, I burn 5 calories every single time.
Nice. Nice. What is your well, I would say, actually, the other question from Wes that I can ask here. I've noticed that you have a female avatar. Did you do it for the cheap armor or for the boys?
Most games, you watch your avatar from the rear more than anything. Like, so I picked one with the nice rear, and apparently the face and the hair wasn't really like good on my avatar.
Oh.
So that was like, when I turned around, outside of the character creation, I was supposed to be a blonde, but I apparently have gray hair. So I cracked a joke on back when I was a newbie on Arcadia that I'm the granny with the nice rear. And that was until I knew that there was 2 other grannies in the game, and I had to stop doing that joke because I didn't want to make it sound like they don't have nice rears.
Granny with a fanny, as it has to be said. So, good night, Betch. Nice to have you here, man. Catch up with you more later. JJ said that he did it for the same reasons. So, rather than a fat dude in a mankini, he wanted to have a hot lady to look at. So, makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, if I had a male avatar, I would totally be rocking the mankini.
Oh, 100%. You know. So. Yeah, so I mean, we're 2 hours and 15 minutes deep or so, and I'm out of questions, so I apologize for that. But anyone else in chat, you're welcome to ask. I didn't really prepare a lot for this one, so my apologies. But if you guys have questions for me, if you have questions for me, I can open up the floor for that as well. Keep it going as long as you guys want.
Yeah.
I don't think Twin is applicable to space, just because they had the space anniversary recently.
That was around Christmas, January, February 2021 to 2022. The tennis event was going on while Christmas Mayhem was happening 2021, and then 2022 January and February.
So I think that space could be considered sort of its own entity and its own independent system, and it's celebrated on a different cycle than planets, right? So, or the rest of Entropia. That seems to be the common trend. So hopefully that answers your question. What are your favorite planets, both of you? I know what Rawr's answer is going to be, because the motherfucker has the NFT for the planet. We shouldn't even ask Rawr that question. I don't know.
Well, I mean, before I owned NI Egg.
Oh, before. Okay.
Yeah. I actually went to Next Island because I was miserable with how things were handled on Arcadia, so I needed a vacation. So the whole thought of going to a tropical island planet was appealing to me. And then the first thing I see when I land on that planet was Socrates in Paradise Landing, waving at people that landed. And I actually DM'd him and said, "Hi, what's this planet about?" So out of the 2 planets, if I have to pick, it would be Ni or Cyrene, and that's mainly because of the planet partners being very interactive with their community. So those are my favorite 2 planets. It's hard picking one of them, because the reason why I like them are the same.
That makes sense to me.
But since I actually own the Ni egg, I'm gonna have to say next island.
Yeah, you're obligated almost at this point, right? So I would say that I'm torn with my favorite planets. Similar to a situation with Rawr right now. I am a PvPer. That's what I do as my primary vocation in the game. Calypso has always had a competitive PvP scene with land grab. It has 2 really good PvP lootable zones. So I always love Calypso. It's the planet that I was born on. And I am most loyal to Calypso. Now, that being said, I also love Arcadia for its lootable PvP zone. That's about it. The recent drama surrounding Arcadia I don't really like. So it's not one of my considerations, but say I'm pretty much on Calypso most of the time. It's got the best rig in the game. It's got the biggest community. It's got the best lootable zones still. So it's got to be Calypso for me. So it's open to change in the future as other planets progress, but Calypso's been tried and true for me.
Speaking of rigs, one of my earliest memories of you, Vandal, was actually on Arcadia. We were a bunch of sweaters trying to get some oil at the rig at Arcadia, and there was some Russian players coming there saying rig closed for non-Russians, and then you actually came in there and mopped the floor with them.
Yep, that sounds about accurate for me. So to give some context on that remark, Arcadia rig has always been peaceful, and what I mean by that is everyone kind of just chills. There's no vehicles in use, because if you use a land vehicle, you pick oil faster than the other people. And I have a network of people. I have friends in low places that you would not expect that PM me when some shit comes up. So anytime that I get a PM from like a select few players, like, hey, we need you at Arcadia rig, I have about 5, 6, 7 warpers online, and I'm like, hey, I need a warp right now to Arcadia. It's not a matter of price. I'll pay 50 ped for a one-way warp to get there, and I will fuck up whoever is fucking with my rig. I grew up at Arcadia rig. I put in a lot of time there, and I value that rig. It has a special place in my heart. Same for that Arcadia PvP zone. So it's near and dear to my heart. So whenever someone PMs me that there's trouble at Arcadia rig, I'm there. I'm 100% in. So just to give a little bit of context there. Not that it was needed, but that's his story. So
yeah, there's always a bigger fish.
I was there at level 16 PKing people that were in their like level 40s and 50s, and they were getting upset like, why don't you go PvP someone your own size? I'm like, well, you're not gonna like what I have to say, but you're a little bit bigger than that. So one person didn't believe me, and I sent them a screenshot of my professional standings, and I've got that screenshot on my other PC still saved, where I took a screenshot of my skills at level 16, and a level 40, 45 player was complaining that I killed them. So it's a skill issue as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so there's a question in chat. Sorry, Rawr, but this one seems mostly aimed at me. What do you think about the new Siren PvP mission? Does it interest you? I'm not familiar with the mission, but the Siren PvP zone itself, the changes for Siren PvP lootable, I have checked them out. I've given it coverage on stream before, and Shauna actually reached out to me for some feedback for that PvP zone.
There's a quest there now for 5k player kills in that zone.
It's a little bit of a tall order, I'll be honest. So I have the 10,000 unique kills in non-lootable on Calypso. It is.
I mean,
super grindy.
What's really stopping somebody from dragging in a newbie in there and just going, here, stand here, I'm gonna kill you over and over, type of thing?
So that's an interesting question. So you actually have to have unique kills. So what qualifies as unique is a fresh session. So if you had the same person, that person needs to relog in order for it to count as a new kill. That's been proven and tested in Rocktropia with No Way Out, and me and some friends who went over there. That's how I know that's how it works. Also with like Killstreak, Hoffs and stuff like that. You can't just camp the same person multiple times for it to count. You have to relog, and then you have to pay 5 ped for the toxic shot. Now, the toxic shot kind of works like a mob kill. So if you're paying a toxic shot to go into lootable PvP, you have about the exact same amount of loot that you get from a 5 ped cost to kill mob in the game. It can multiply, but you are probably going to lose. So over a long enough period of time, maybe you'll see a return back, but I wouldn't really do that. I wouldn't grind it if the reward's not there personally. So the new zone itself seems really cool. There's a lot of cool aspects to it with the run speed and the safe zones inside of the PvP zone. But to get 5,000 kills in lootable PvP on any planet is a very tall order for even a person like me. It should not be considered reasonable, and if you want to achieve that, best of luck to you. Godspeed.
Yeah, maybe over a period of like a year or something.
Even then, man. Back when I was going hard at lootable PvP, I would see maybe 1 to 2 green dots in the zone per day, and I was spending 8 to 12 hours there every single day. So, assuming that you got both of those people killed, you're talking about at least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And Siren isn't very populated. Although I have a lot of respect for Shauna. I love the planet. I love where they're going. It's great to see them taking player feedback and stuff into the PvP area. I just don't see the missions as viable. What would have been a more realistic mission number then? I'm unfamiliar with the mission rewards, as I stated earlier, but I think 500 is plenty. Why make it 5,000? Take off a 0. Equally as challenging in my opinion.
Yeah, when you get high numbers like that, people just look for an exploit or a way to cheese it.
Yeah. Even at 500, I would still be motivated to try to find a way around it.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. I mean, if you asked me to find 500 players in lootable, even here on Cali, I would say, there's no way. Like, I couldn't even pick a zone. that I could find 500 players in, unique players, or, you know, the same player every other day or every other session that they log in. There's no way. It would take me a long time camping PvP. So I kind of approach missions a little bit differently. I look at it as like a time investment versus like a reward in versus out, or cost versus in or out. So they might be focused on like the cost to kill an average person in PvP might be like 1 to 2 ped. They're like, oh yeah, we want to balance it off of that, but that's not the way that I look at it. It's the time commitment mostly that detracts me from that.
Yeah, I mean, you have several type of players. Like some people have no issues with the grind, and some people do have an issue with the grind.
Yeah.
And I think that has mostly to do with people's deposit habits, or if they deposit at all. Like, people that don't deposit as much usually tend to have more time than ped. And then you have the people that can deposit a chunk. They are more concerned with less time rather than how much ped it will cost. Mm.
Any other questions? Anything that I missed that you could see, Rawr? Or
What's the funniest reaction you ever got when somebody managed to kill you in PvP?
oh, there's been a few. There's been a handful of lucky crits. You know, like
Yeah.
I think everyone can say like, you know, oh, you can kill anybody in PvP. You know, and I think like
Yeah, but like the reaction, I'm pretty sure you've gotten the question several times, what the funniest reaction when you killed somebody, but I'm thinking about the opposite, because to somebody that looks at you, it puts you on a pedestal in PvP, for an example, when they manage to get that crit, like what's the funniest reaction you've got? Like,
so you're not gonna like my answer. It's not gonna be as entertaining or as fascinating as you. So, once upon a time, there was a Gorgon wave, and a certain Regulite bunny invited me to come to the Gorgon wave with her, and she laughed her ass off when I died in the Gorgon wave. That's PvE. I know it's not similar, but that to me sticks out as the funniest reaction that I've ever seen someone have to me dying. Now, when it comes to PvP, there's a lot of people that really inflated their self-ego, like, oh yeah, I killed Vandal, you know, like that guy, you know, like the PvP guy, you know, and there's been a lot of that. Yeah. But I think the funniest reaction to me dying has to be Miss Watson when I was on Next Island at the Gorgon Wave instance, and she just laughed her ass off and said, oh, you fucking noob, or whatever it was, you know, and so that to me
she would probably say get wrecked, noob.
Yeah. So that to me sticks out in my mind as the best death reaction that I've ever had to dying in the game. I have a lot of fan mail, so I call it fan mail. It's a bunch of like basically hate mail from people that have called me a lot of choice words over the years in PvP. Now I like that kind of stuff too, and I collect it. Kind of like a scrapbook, if you would, but no, I think that's the best reaction I've got to the dying in PvP was, or not dying even in PvP, just dying in general, was that candid reaction from Miss Watson when I died at the Gorgon Wave. She was like, "Ha, you fucking noob," or whatever she said, you know. So that to me, I was in the stream, you know. I stopped what I was doing to be there, you know. So. But yeah, there's actually been people that have asked to kill me, to get the screenshot in lootable PvP. Like they're like, hey, can you come out here and let me kill you, like naked, you know? And it's sat there. It's taken them a while because I always have a divine buff running, and I'm at 345 HP. So I've gone naked and let people kill me, and it takes them a little bit of ammo to get through that, you know. So it's like, hey, you know, just that they asked me, like, hey man, you know, we're cool. Can I kill you and take a screenshot just to have it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. You know, if you want it that bad, go ahead. So there's been a few of those as well, and I like that when that happens, you know, because I don't mind. I don't have an ego, you know. I maybe put it on every once in a while, but it's just a game, you know. I don't take it that seriously, so it's always funny, you know.
I remember first time you killed me in PvP though. That was during the NI festival,
Yeah.
and you were like, "Fuck yeah, kill me!"
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, okay. So, getting into my psyche a little bit, I like the idea of being able to say that I've killed the most unique players of anybody in the game. It's kind of like a mantra that I have. You know, I love PvP. I love everything to do with PvP. In fact, I was very distressed. So, the other day, one of my disciples reached out to me and he was like, "Hey man, so there's somebody here with the creature control pill at Royal Club. Can you please come and help me? You know, kill this guy." He had like a creature control pill from Monria, like one of the cultists or whatever. And I went to kill him, and it was Lore Spade, you know. So I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry I didn't want to, you know, cut your fun off or anything, but he got like an all-time high kill spree. And I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, you know. So I had to come in and help. So don't want to cut your fun off. So he was like, no, it's all good. You know, I had my fun or whatever. He understood that I was just, you know, kind of helping, you know, the disciple or whatever that was there sweating. But I am a avid supporter of PvP and everything to do with PvP. It's a fun aspect to the game to me, and if you want advice on PvP or anything, I'm there. So yeah. But no, that's the funniest memory that I've got of dying in the game, is Miss Watson's reaction to me dying at the Gorgon. That's not even PvP, but hey, that is what it is.
Yeah. She dishes that out equally. She gets overjoyed when she sees me fucking croaking over as well.
Yeah. It wasn't even that big of a reaction. It's like, huh, you fucking noob, or whatever she said, you know? This is like, yeah, it's fine. But
Yep. Yeah, noob down, noob down. Yeah, that's typically what she yells.
yeah.
Trying to think about something else that could be interesting.
There's a question coming in from Pennywise. How do you feel about the same players getting these massive Ubers multiple times per week? Do you think there's insider info being passed out? And thank you for the raid, Bunny Fufu. Really appreciate it. Funny Fufu, sorry. So you could subscribe to that theory, right? You could say like, oh yeah, these guys have like information, but I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's just a really poorly designed mobile application, you know, on the App Store. So
Yeah. I mean, there has been cases in the past where some official got a little bit too drunk and disclosed more than he should have.
it happens, you know.
Yeah, I don't think that's a common thing though, but a lot of players in this game has been playing this game for so many years, and some of the Ubers they get, you know, these giant hits, they cycle such an insane amount of ped. So I'm not sure even when they get the HOF that or the rare loot that it's actually a profit at that point. I've warped some of these people from one planet and then they contact me when they want to warp back, so I kind of know how long they stay there. And it can be like They can do like a whole night grind or a whole day grind type of thing. Sometimes they even stay over the weekend on one single planet and go ham on those mobs there. And then ask me, at the end of the weekend to come and pick them up and bring them back to college so they can either liquidate their profits or their losses.
So this could be for either one of us. It's a question coming in from SnowRanger19. Do you have a favorite vehicle when you're planet side?
It's either my quad or my strider, because the strider can somewhat drive uphill in a way that most vehicles can't.
I would say that I'm torn between two. I've got an unlimited helicopter and I've got an unlimited pit bull. Those are my two big ones. I've actually got the pit bull on me, I think, if you guys wanted to see it, but I love this thing. It's badass. So those are my two choices, is like my unlimited helicopter, which I can carry a lot of people in, or my unlimited pit bull. So Allure Spade, what's up, man? Yeah, I was talking about you earlier. TDF Scout Vehicle is like godlike. I mean, it's very quick for sure, but its structural integrity is pretty low for PvP. I used to have a Scout Vehicle unlimited as well. But no, I was talking earlier that you had a creature control pill at Royal Club, and that I was remiss that I had to relieve you of control of that pill. So what else you got for me, Rawr? Anything?
Kind of dry, to be honest.
No worries. I mean, we can move to the after party mode if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, we're about 2 minutes, Jesus. 2 hours, 40 minutes deep. So it's about the normal, length and breadth of a
Yeah,
Q&A.
I mean, if anyone has anything space related want to ask, like, now's your chance. Or
Well,
PvP.
Yeah,
related.
we can open it up to the floor. For sure. If not, we're gonna stay out for the after party. So, if you guys have any questions for Rawr or myself, please make them known at this time. If not, then we will wrap up the official Q&A and move into the after party. Is space hunting worth it to average people, like normal people with quads or Sleipnirs?
No, it's not. And the reason why I say that is because your Sleipnir and your quad has markup on it. And when the mobs attack your quad and Sleipnir, like, it decays kind of fast compared to what you get back. And if you look at the markup on the quads and the Sleipnirs, it's not worth it. Like, that's the markup there would be money that your loot pool would never see. Is there any variation of space hunting that is worth hunting with that efficiency of a mothership? I mean, the mothership and the privateers are... I can look up the exact numbers if you want, but they're around, I think, 52 to 54-ish% efficient. You wouldn't really be going hunt those mobs for TT returns. It would be the markup in that case. The dropship has a lot of robot loot that has markup on it. And also, if you get the plausible dropship sensor, you have a high chance of... no, that's the wrong word. You would have some chance to get something with really good markup on it. If you draw like a blueprint or something like that. And also something that drops often from the dropship is the emeralds and those gems at the end of it, which a lot of people need to tear up their armors and sometimes guns. Yes. If that player, the question is, I got a question. I've not tested yet. If it's a team hunt, would the mob get auto-looted if a player inside a ship has auto-loot of 32 minutes? 32 meters is very short. Yeah, garnets was what I meant. Fire debug. But yeah, if one player has auto-loot and he has done damage to that mob, then yes, it would get looted. 32 minutes is very short though. You typically want something around 50 meters for it to feel natural. Otherwise, the pilot would have to fly really close to the mobs. Well, inside of a mothership and a privateer, you can summon your pets, but the bug where you can go into the pilot seat and have the auto loot running is no longer working. They fixed that several version updates ago. I mean, a lot of people abuse that bug with the auto loot and pet buffs carrying through to instances and the pilot seats. I think it was just a matter of time before Minority would notice.
It wasn't just space though.
No, and that's why I said instances as well.
So I had tried to raise that before. Even Crystal Palace has weird pet rules and stuff, you know, and it wasn't until yours truly brought it up on stream that they actually fixed it, so that was fun to see. So Mindark does watch streams, so that's good to see. But going back to the fixing support structure, I think that if they actually responded and watched support cases, you could avoid information like this leaking out to the public before it got resolved. And they're kind of forced to fix it, so a little bit of a tidbit for you there. Cool. Anybody else got anything? Or cool. Well,
we satisfied most people.
I think so. Well, Rawr, thank you very much for your time tonight. It was a pleasure getting to speak with you, getting to know you better, and also giving the community a chance to hear your side of things and your story as well. So thank you very much again for agreeing to this and being a part of this, and also letting me be a part of, you know, this, you know, for you. So I'm very humbled that you agreed to that, and thank you again. It means a lot, man. So
yeah, no problems.